You know, I was walking to the studio today. Actually, I was running a little late, so I was speed walking. And I saw a squirrel mistime a jump from a fence to a tree. It just completely face planted.
Graceful.
Oh, not at all. But it scrambled up and looked fine. But it got me thinking about, well, engineering.
A face-planting scroll got you thinking about engineering.
It did. Because we look at that squirrel and just see, a fuzzy rodent. But if you really break down what it's doing, the calculations of distance, the grip strength, the shock absorption, it's actually a marvel of physics.
It just had a bad calculation day.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We tend to view nature as this chaotic, wild thing, and we view engineering or science as this strictly human domain.
Oh, absolutely. It's guys in lab coats, women with the blueprints, sterile environments.
Precisely. When I say scientist, you picture a guy in a white lab coat holding a test tube. When I say engineer, you picture a woman in a hard hat looking at a blueprint. We think we invented aerodynamics or hydraulics or chemical synthesis.
But the reality is, we are the interns.
The intern.
We are the interns showing up on day one to a company that has been running successfully for 3.8 billion years.
I love that.
We're walking around with our little clipboards, looking at things nature solved during the Jurassic period and saying, hey, I have a great idea for a solar panel.
Yeah.
And nature's just looking at a leaf and saying,
Yeah, I figured that out a long time ago. Check the archives.
yeah, it's clever.
That is the perfect way to frame today's discussion. We're ready to jump into another deep dive, and today we're looking at the source material, Clever Creatures by Steve Mould.
Right.
But we aren't just reading a list of fun animal facts. We are not here to just say, did you know a cheetah is fast?
No, this is more like a catalog of biological R&D.
Research and development.
Yes. Our mission today is to completely shatter that image of the scientist in the sterile lab. We're going to look at the real innovators.
The ones without the fancy degrees. The ones crawling in the dirt, the ones swimming in the Antarctic, and the ones growing in your garden. We're talking about how nature mastered physics, chemistry, theoretical mathematics, and even agricultural systems long before humans figured out how to sharpen a stick.
It really requires a shift in perspective. When you look at a zebra, do you see a horse with stripes? Or do you see a walking differential equation?
I see a horse with stripes.
And when you see a shrimp, do you see a cocktail snack or do you see a master of thermodynamics?
Well, I usually see a cocktail snack with a side of dipping sauce, but I have a feeling you are about to ruin my appetite.
I might. But I'll also give you a newfound respect for the machinery of life. Because that's what this is. It isn't magic.
It's engineering.
It is engineering under the most brutal deadline imaginable. Survival.
The ultimate stress test.
Precisely. I mean, think about it. If a human engineer builds a bridge that fails, they get fired, maybe they get sued.
Right. It's a bad day at the office.
If an animal evolves a mechanism that fails, it gets eaten. It dies. The genetic line just ends.
Stop.
So everything we are going to talk about today, every mechanism, every chemical reaction, is a solution that has passed millions of years of rigorous peer review.
I love that framing. So let's crack this open. We are going to divide this into disciplines, just like a university. Let's start with the Department of Physics.
Physics is a great place to start. It's all about mechanics, forces, energy, the fundamentals.
And we have to start with the creature that I think has become the internet's favorite aggressive crustacean. The heavy hitter.
The peacock mantis shrimp.
Okay, for the uninitiated, we really need to paint a picture here. This is not the little pink shrimp you put in a salad.
Oh, not at all. It's a stomatopod. Visually, it looks like a lobster crossed with a praying mantis.
Okay.
And then painted by a graffiti artist who just discovered neon. We are talking bright greens, reds, electric blues. It's a stunningly beautiful animal.
But we aren't here for the aesthetics.
No, we are interested in the arms.
Yeah.
Specifically, the dactyls.
These are its clubs it uses to hunt. It has these two appendages tucked under its chest, and the statistic everyone quotes is the speed.
Right.
It punches at the speed of a .22 caliber bullet.
That is the headline stat. It's about 50 miles per hour or 23 meters per second. But honestly, the speed isn't actually the hard part to understand.
What do you mean? 50 miles an hour is crazy fast.
It is, but cars go 50 miles an hour.
Yeah?
The truly mind-bending part is the acceleration.
Going from 0 to 50.
Exactly. It goes from a dead stop to top speed in a fraction of a millisecond. It accelerates at over 10,000 Gs.
10,000 Gs. For context, what can a human handle?
A trained fighter pilot in a G-suit passes out at around 9 Gs.
So if a human tried to move their arm that fast, what would happen?
Your muscles would tear themselves clean off the bone. Biological muscles simply cannot contract that quickly. There's a physiological speed limit to how fast muscle fibers can twitch.
So biology has a speed limit, but the shrimp is breaking it.
By cheating. Well, not cheating, but by using a different branch of physics.
Oh.
It doesn't use muscle to drive the punch directly. It uses elastic energy.
Okay, let's unpack this. The source uses a bow and arrow analogy, which I found really helpful.
It is the perfect analogy. Think about an archer. When they want to shoot an arrow, they don't just throw it with their arm, right?
No, they pull back the bowstring. They're using their muscles to bend the wood of the bow.
Exactly. They're doing work. They're transferring energy from their muscles into the potential energy of that bent bow. And the key is, they can do this slowly.
Right. An archer can take 3 or 4 seconds to draw the bow.
They are loading the energy gradually.
But when they let go of the string,
All of that stored energy is dumped instantly. It transforms from potential energy to kinetic energy in a microsecond.
and the arrow flies.
The mantis shrimp has a structure on its shell, a saddle shape, that works exactly like that bow. It's a biological spring.
A spring made of shell.
Yeah, Keaton. The shrimp uses its muscles to latch the arm in place, locking the safety, essentially. Then, it contracts its massive muscles to bend that saddle shape. It compresses it, loading it with tension.
It's a biological crossbow, cocked and loaded.
It's walking around the reef just waiting for a crab to look at it the wrong way.
Always ready.
And when a crab or a snail comes within range, the shrimp just releases the latch. The shell snaps back to its original shape, and the club is flung forward with that insane acceleration we talked about.
And the target is usually something with a hard shell.
Right. Crabs, clams, snails, the force of the impact is staggering. It's enough to smash a crab shell to pieces. In fact, aquariums kind of hate keeping these things.
Why? Because they're aggressive.
Well, yes, but also because they break the glass.
They break the aquarium glass.
They have been known to crack it, yeah. You have to keep them in special acrylic tanks, usually. They're a liability.
That is terrifying. But here's the part that really blew my mind. The impact of the club, the physical thwack, is only half the story. The source calls this the science moment of the shrimp. We need to talk about cavitation.
This is where we leave simple mechanics and enter the realm of fluid dynamics and, well, thermodynamics.
You're telling me this shrimp's punch creates light and heat from a shrimp?
It creates a shock wave. Here's the mechanism. When an object, in this case the club, moves through water that fast, it pushes the water out of the way. But because it's moving so incredibly fast, the water behind the club, it can't fill the space fast enough.
It leaves a hole in the water. A vacuum.
Effectively, yes. It creates an area of incredibly low pressure. And in physics, pressure and boiling point are linked. If you drop the pressure low enough, water will boil at room temperature.
Whoa, okay. So the water isn't boiling because it's hot.
No.
It's boiling because it's in a vacuum.
Correct. The water is literally ripped apart, turning from liquid to gas. It forms a bubble. This is the cavitation bubble.
Okay, so we have a bubble of vapor underwater. That can't be stable.
It's incredibly unstable. The surrounding water pressure, which is huge, crushes the bubble back down in a split second. And when that bubble collapses, it releases a massive amount of energy.
Like a tiny implosion.
Yes. And it happens with such violence that it generates a flash of light, a phenomenon called sonoluminescence. And for a brief nanosecond, the temperature inside that collapsing bubble can reach nearly the temperature of the surface of the sun.
You have to be kidding me.
I am not.
The surface of the sun, underwater, generated by a crustacean.
It is extremely localized, obviously. We're talking a microscopic point of heat. But the result is a massive shock wave. So think about the poor crab.
I am feeling very sorry for the crab right now.
The shrimp hits the crab. Bang! That's impact number 1. A millisecond later, the cavitation bubble collapses against the crab's shell. Bang! Impact number 2.
It's a 1-2 punch where the second hit is made of collapsing physics.
Exactly. Even if the shrimp somehow misses with the physical club, the shockwave from the collapsing bubble is often enough to stun or kill the prey on its own. It's weaponized fluid dynamics.
That's just humbling. Humans struggle to build ship propellers that don't destroy themselves with cavitation. It pits the metal, and the shrimp is using it as a dinner bell.
And it's not just the shrimp. This principle of elastic energy storage, this load and release mechanism, is all over nature. The source mentions ferns using it.
Ferns! The plants. How does a fern use a crossbow?
Specifically the sporangium. Ferns don't have muscles. They don't have a nervous system, so how do they fling their spores into the wind to reproduce?
I just assumed they, kind of, Let drift.
Oh no, they launch them. They have a row of cells that acts like a catapult. As these cells dry out, they shrink. This shrinking creates tension, bending the structure back and
It's
back,
in back.
just like pulling back the bowstring.
Precisely, until the tension overcomes the strength of the water bond holding the cells together in SNAP. It flings the spores at high speed. It's the same physics as the shrimp, just for reproduction instead of destruction.
Evolution is so efficient. If a mechanism works, if stored elastic energy is a good idea, it gets used everywhere. Why reinvent the wheel? Or, in this case, the crossbow.
All right, let's move from the bottom of the ocean to the surface. I want to talk about walking on water,
The pond skater.
or the water strider, or the Jesus bug, depending on where you grew up. We see them just gliding on lakes and ponds, and the textbook answer is always surface tension.
Right.
But I feel like we all use that phrase without actually knowing what it means. Why does water have a skin?
To understand surface tension, we have to zoom way in to the molecular level. Water molecules are H2O. They're polar.
Polar, meaning they have a positive side and a negative side, like tiny magnets.
Exactly like tiny magnets. They want to stick to each other. This stickiness is called cohesion.
So every water molecule is holding hands with its neighbors.
That's a great way to visualize it. Imagine a crowded dance floor. If you're a water molecule in the middle of the bucket, you're holding hands with people in front of you, behind you, to your left, right, above, and below. You're being pulled equally in all directions.
It's a balanced tug of war. You don't go anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what about the molecules on the very surface? The ones on the dance floor ceiling? They have neighbors below them and to the sides, but they have nobody above them.
Just air, and they don't want to hold hands with the air.
Nope. So all that pulling force that would have gone up gets redistributed. They hold on tighter to the molecules next to them. This creates a sheet of tension. It acts like a trampoline.
Okay, so the water is a trampoline, but if I step on a trampoline, I sink down a bit. If I step on a lake, I sink like a stone.
That's a mass issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're way too heavy and your feet are too small relative to your weight. You break the hydrogen bonds, you tear the dance floor apart.
So the pond skater is just super light.
It is light, which helps, but the real engineering genius is in the feet.
The hairy feet.
If you look at a pond skater's legs under a microscope, they aren't smooth. They're covered in thousands of tiny microscopic hairs. And these aren't just any hairs. They're hydrophobic.
Fear of water.
Or repelling water. They're waxy, like a freshly detailed car where the rain just beads up. Because the hairs repel the water, they trap tiny cushions of air between the hair and the water surface.
Oh, wow. So the source compares this to wearing shoes made of air bubbles.
It's like strapping inflatable pool floats to your feet. The insect isn't actually touching the water directly. It's hovering on a cushion of air trapped in its leg hair.
And this spreads their weight out.
Perfectly. It distributes the force so effectively that they don't break that surface tension skin. They just dimple it. If you look closely at a pond skater on a sunny day, you can see the shadow of the dimples on the bottom of the pond.
Right. It looks like they have giant feet, but it's just the dent in the water.
That's the meniscus. And it allows them to do amazing things. They can jump, they can slide. The source mentions the raft spider, which does this to hunt.
How does it hunt?
It senses vibrations in the surface tension to detect prey. Just like a spider in a web senses vibrations in the silk.
The surface of the water is its web. That's incredible. And the water snail, that was the one that confused me.
The water snail is the inverted version. It crawls on the underside of the surface tension,
It's walking on the ceiling.
the water ceiling. It secretes a mucus that grabs onto the surface tension from below. Physics doesn't care which side is up. As long as the adhesion of the slime is stronger than gravity, the snail stays put.
That is such a weird image. A snail crawling on the water ceiling. Nature really doesn't care about our intuition, does it?
Not in the slightest.
Let's stick with physics, but move to the air, the night shift. We have to talk about bats.
Acoustic engineering at its finest.
The problem bats face is obvious. They hunt at night. Total darkness. They eat moths. Moths are small, erratic, and quiet. You can't see them.
Right. So eyes are, well, they're not useless, but they aren't the primary tool. If you're flying at 20 miles per hour trying to catch a target the size of a coin, you need a guidance system.
You need sonar.
Yeah.
Or echolocation.
We all know the basic concept. Bat screams, sound bounces, bat hears echo. But the processing power required to make that useful is what blows my mind. This isn't just hearing. This is computation.
So how does the math work?
Okay, think about the variables. The bat emits a click, a high-frequency sound wave. That wave travels out at the speed of sound. It hits a moth. A tiny, tiny portion of that energy bounces back.
The return signal must be incredibly faint.
It is, but the bat's brain is tuned for it. First, it measures the time delay, the time between the click and the echo.
Okay.
Since the speed of sound in air is constant, roughly 343 meters per second, the delay tells the bat exactly how far away the moth is.
So short delay equals close moth, long delay equals far moth.
Simple algebra. Distance equals rate times time. But knowing there is a moth 5 feet away isn't enough.
Yeah.
You need to know where it is. Left, right, up, down.
And that's where the ears come in.
Right. Bats usually have large, intricate ears. They act like satellite dishes. To find the horizontal position left or right, the bat compares the arrival time of the echo between the two ears.
Like stereo sound.
Exactly. If the echo hits the right ear a fraction of a millisecond before the left ear, the bat's brain knows the object is to the right. It's comparing the phase difference of the sound waves.
What about up and down? That seems harder. The ears are on the same level.
That is where the shape of the ear matters. You know how bats have those weird ridges and folds in their ears? The tragus and antitragus?
Yeah, they look kind of gnarly.
Those ridges are functional. They're acoustic filters. They change the frequency of the sound slightly depending on the angle it arises from. A sound coming from above will bounce off the ridges differently than a sound coming from below.
It creates a spectral signature, a color almost.
Wait, so the bat is analyzing the frequency distortion caused by its own ear shape to determine elevation?
Subconsciously, yes. It is called a head-related transfer function. And they do this continuously, updating the picture of the world hundreds of times a second. They are seeing the texture, distance, speed, and direction of everything around them using sound. They can detect a human hair stretched across a room in total darkness.
That's the classic example. And it's true.
And the source mentions this is convergent evolution. What does that mean again?
It's a key biological concept.
Yeah.
It means distinct animals, completely unrelated, evolving the same solution to the same problem.
Like?
Dolphins use echolocation underwater because light doesn't travel well in murky water. Same problem, same solution.
And oil birds.
Oil birds in South America live in pitch-black caves. They use echolocation too. Same physics, different species, different environment.
It's like nature has a toolkit. And if you live in the dark, nature hands you the echolocation wrench and says, good luck.
That is a very good way to put it. Physics imposes the constraints. Evolution finds the workaround.
All right, let's take off the physics hat. It's a bit tight on my head anyway.
Yeah.
And put on the safety goggles. We are entering the chemistry lab.
Ooh,
Section 2, the chemists of the natural world.
Chemistry is where things get messy and usually pretty dangerous.
And we are starting with a creature that is basically a walking chemical weapon, the bombardier beetle.
The name is very, very appropriate. This beetle is the answer to the question, what if I could shoot boiling acid out of my butt?
A question I ask myself daily, honestly.
So the scenario is this. A beetle is minding its own business, crawling through the leaf litter. A toad or a frog comes along looking for a snack. In most cases, that's the end of the beetle.
Right. Gulp. Gone.
But the bombardier beetle has a surprise. It can eject a spray from the tip of its abdomen that is not only noxious, but boiling hot.
Okay, boiling, like literally 100 degrees Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit.
Yes, literally boiling water temperatures. Steam comes off it, you can see it.
Okay, hold on. Biology is made of protein. Protein cooks at like, what, 40, 50 degrees Celsius? If I hold boiling water in my mouth, I burn my mouth. How is this bug not cooking itself from the inside out?
That is the engineering brilliance. It doesn't hold boiling liquid, that would be suicide. It holds two harmless ingredients separately.
Ah, the binary weapon approach. Like epoxy glue. It's useless until you mix the two tubes.
Exactly. It has two storage glands. One holds a chemical called hydroquinone, and the other holds hydrogen peroxide.
Hydrogen peroxide, like the stuff I put on a cut? The fizzy stuff?
Much more concentrated, but yes, the same basic chemical. On their own, in their separate tanks, they are stable, harmless. But when the beetle is threatened, it opens the valves and pushes these two fluids into a third chamber, the reaction chamber.
And that's where the magic happens.
That is where the chemistry happens. The chamber is lined with enzymes, catalyses and peroxidases. These act as the spark, the catalyst. They break down the hydrogen peroxide into oxygen and water.
And that process releases heat.
A massive amount of heat. It is an extremely exothermic reaction. It happens almost instantly. The water in the mixture is heated to the boiling point. And because liquid turns to gas, the oxygen, the volume expands rapidly.
Gas takes up way more space than liquid.
Right. So you have high pressure building up in a fraction of a second. That pressure forces the mixture out of the nozzle at the tip of its abdomen with an audible pop.
So the frog gets a face full of boiling, stinging chemicals.
And the source notes that it doesn't just spray like a garden hose. It pulses. It works like a machine gun.
Why pulse? Why not just one long stream? Wouldn't that be more effective?
Heat management. If it were a continuous stream, the heat from the reaction chamber might conduct back into the beetle's body and cook its own glands. By pulsing at about 500 times per second, it allows for a tiny fraction of cooling time between shots. It protects the nozzle.
That is over-engineering at its absolute finest. The level of detail is incredible.
The result is effective. Toads have been observed swallowing the beetle and then immediately vomiting it back up because the beetle detonated inside the stomach.
Talk about severe indigestion.
It's a survival strategy that relies on being absolutely miserable to eat.
Okay, let's talk about the different kind of chemistry. Not explosive, but sticky. Adhesion, glue.
A huge industry for humans. We were always trying to make better glues. Super glue, epoxy, wood glue, you name it.
And the barnacle has us beat in one specific area, gluing things underwater.
Oh yeah. If you've ever tried to fix a swimming pool tile or seal a leak on a boat while it's in the water, you know water ruins glue.
It gets between the glue and the surface, it stops the bond.
We're right. Water molecules form a hydration layer on the surface of the rock or the wall. The glue can't actually touch the material, it just touches the water, so it slides right off.
So how does the baby barnacle, the cyprid, do it? Because once a barnacle picks a spot, it is there for life.
It uses a brilliant two-step process. This is chemistry as a tool. When the cyprid finds a nice rock or a ship hull, it doesn't just squirt the glue. First, it squirts a lipid.
A lipid, an oil.
Yes. And what do we know about oil and water?
They do not mix.
Not at all. The oil spreads out and physically pushes the water away from the rock surface. It displaces the water. It creates a microscopic dry zone.
It primes the surface. It's like a tiny construction worker wiping down the wall before they paint.
Exactly. Now that the spot is covered in oil and the water is gone, the barnacle secretes the phosphoprotein cement, the actual glue. This glue is designed to pass through the oil and bond directly to the now dry rock.
So it creates its own perfect construction site conditions. That's so smart.
Essentially, the glue displaces the oil, hits the rock, and hardens into one of the strongest natural adhesives known. That barnacle is never moving again.
And I assume humans are looking at this. This seems incredibly useful.
Oh, absolutely. Dentists are very interested.
Dentists.
Think about it. The inside of your mouth is wet. If you need to glue a crown or a filling, you have the same problem as the barnacle. How do I glue something to a wet surface? Understanding barnacle chemistry could lead to much better dental cements.
We're stealing trade secrets from crustaceans.
That's the theme of the day, isn't it?
It really is. Now, on the other end of this sticky spectrum, we have snails.
Snail slime.
We think of slime as just gross goo. But snail slime is a sophisticated material. It's a liquid crystal.
That sounds high-tech, like an LCD screen. It shares some properties. It is a non-Newtonian fluid. Specifically, it is shear thinning or thixotropic.
Okay, translate that for me. Shear thinning.
It means its viscosity, its thickness changes depending on how much force you apply to it.
So,
When the snail is just sitting there, the slime is thick. It's a gel that acts like glue. This allows the snail to stick to a leaf or a wall, even upside down.
but if it wants to move, it can't be glued down.
When the snail pushes its muscles against the slime, that stress, that shear force, causes the slime to become liquid. It becomes runny. It acts like a lubricant.
Wait, so it's glue when they stop and oil when they move.
Exactly. It's an adhesive and a lubricant in one substance. And it also smooths out the road. The microscopic world is rough. Even a smooth leaf has ridges and valleys. If a soft-bodied snail tried to slide over that dry, it would rip its skin to shreds. The slime fills in the gaps, creating a smooth asphalt road for the snail to glide on.
And it's a defense mechanism too, right?
Right. If a bird tries to pick up a snail, it's slippery. But if an ant tries to bite it, the slime gums up their mandibles and they can't move.
Which brings us to the ultimate slime weapon mentioned in the source, the hagfish.
Oh, the hagfish. This is the stuff of nightmares. It's an eel-like creature that lives on the ocean floor. Scavengers, they're pretty gross.
And if a shark bites a hagfish, what happens?
The hagfish releases a small amount of exudate from glands on its side. This stuff hits the seawater and expands,
Like that foam insulation stuff you spray in cracks.
but faster and wetter. It absorbs water and expands by a factor of 10,000 in seconds. It creates liters and liters of thick, fibrous slime instantly,
In the shark's mouth.
in the mouth and, crucially, in the gills. It clogs the shark's gills.
So the shark is suffocating.
The shark is effectively waterboarded with slime. It has to let go and retreat to clear its gills, or it will drown.
Weaponized snot. I love it.
It's disgusting, but highly effective engineering.
Okay, one last chemist before we move on, and this one lives in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, the Antarctic, the black fin ice fish.
This is a creature living in water that is actually below the freezing point of fresh water.
Explain that. How is water colder than freezing? That sounds impossible.
Fresh water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit, but salt water has a lower freezing point because the salt disrupts the formation of ice crystals. Seawater freezes around negative 1.9 degrees Celsius. The ocean around Antarctica is often at that temperature.
So if you put a normal fish, like a goldfish, in that water?
It would freeze solid. Specifically, ice crystals would form in its blood. And ice crystals are sharp. They're like little needles. They would shred the cells, stop circulation, the fish dies.
But the ice fish is fine. How?
It has evolved two massive chemical adaptations. First, if you look at its blood, it's clear. It looks like water.
Transparent blood. No red blood cells.
No red blood cells. No hemoglobin.
But hemoglobin carries oxygen. We need that to live. How does it breathe?
We do. But cold water holds much more dissolved oxygen than warm water. This is why soda stays fizzy longer when it's cold. The ice fish has realized it can absorb enough oxygen directly from the water into its plasma without needing the red blood cells to carry it. This makes the blood thinner.
And why do you want thinner blood?
Because cold liquids get viscous. They get thick. Think of pouring honey from the fridge versus honey from the cupboard. Pumping thick blood requires a massive heart and a lot of energy. By removing the red blood cells, the blood stays thinner and much easier to pump in the freezing cold.
That's incredibly efficient. But what about the freezing? That doesn't solve the ice crystal problem.
Adaptation number 2, antifreeze proteins.
Actual antifreeze, like the stuff in my car radiator.
Different chemistry, same result. Glycoproteins. These are special molecules that patrol the blood. Here's how they work. When water tries to freeze, it starts with a tiny seed crystal. Other water molecules grab onto that seed, and the crystal grows.
Like a snowball rolling down a hill.
Exactly. These proteins are shaped to bind perfectly to the face of that ice crystal. They grab onto the seed crystal and physically block other water molecules from joining.
They arrest the growth. They stop the snowball.
They stop the crystal from getting big enough to do damage. So the fish might have microscopic ice in its blood, but it stays as harmless dust rather than lethal shards.
It's controlled freezing. It allows them to live where almost nothing else can.
It's a lonely life, but a safe one. No predators can follow you there.
It's incredible. Okay, let's move to section 3. This is where things get a little more abstract. We've done physics, we've done chemistry, now we are doing math.
Yes, the mathematics of disguise and deception.
This sounds like a spy novel class, but we are talking about patterns, and specifically the zebra.
I think everyone at some point has asked the question, why do zebras have stripes? And also, how do they get them?
And the how brings us to a brilliant mathematician you may have heard of named Alan Turing.
Alan Turing. Most people know him as the father of modern computing, the Enigma codebreaker, the hero of WWII.
Benedict Cumberbatch in the movie.
Right. But what people don't realize is that in his later years, Turing became fascinated by biology. He wanted to know how nature created patterns out of, well, chaos.
Because an embryo starts as a blank slate, right? It's just a ball of identical cells. How does it know this part should be black and this part should be white?
Exactly. Turing proposed a mathematical model called a reaction diffusion system.
That sounds complicated. Break it down for me.
Okay. Imagine the zebra embryo's skin is a canvas. Turing proposed there are two chemicals interacting. He called them morphogens-shaped creators. Let's call them the activator and the inhibitor.
Okay, activator and inhibitor. Got it.
The activator says, make pigment here, make it black. And it stimulates its own production. It's like a fire starting. It wants to spread.
So if left alone, the whole zebra would just be black.
Yes, but, and this is the key, the activator also triggers the inhibitor. The inhibitor says, stop making pigment. And here is the crucial variable. The inhibitor moves faster. It diffuses through the tissue more quickly than the activator.
I need an analogy.
Okay, think of the activator as a campfire. It creates heat, which is the pigment.
Yep.
But it also sends out smoke, which is the inhibitor. The smoke travels much faster and further than the fire itself.
Right.
The smoke surrounds the fire and suffocates any new fires from starting nearby.
So you get a patch of fire, a spot surrounded by a ring of smoke where there's no fire.
Exactly. And then outside that smoke ring, another fire can start. This creates a pattern of spots.
But zebras have stripes, not spots.
If you tweak the variables in the equation, how fast the chemicals diffuse, the viscosity, the shape of the animal's body, those spots can stretch out and merge into stripes, or mazes, or the rosettes you see on a leopard.
So a zebra is basically a walking differential equation.
It is a visual representation of a mathematical tug-of-war happening at the molecular level. It's beautiful, really.
And the why? Why go through all this complex math to get stripes?
Well, the theories have bounced around for a century. Is it for cooling? Is it for camouflage in the tall grass?
Yeah.
But the leading theory right now, which is supported by the source, involves bugs. Biting flies, tsetse flies, and horseflies. These are nasty insects that carry disease, and they're a huge problem for animals in Africa.
And they don't like stripes.
They get confused by them. Experiments have shown that flies have a terrible time landing on high-contrast striped surfaces. The optical flow messes with their navigation systems.
What do you mean by optical flow?
It's how they judge distance and speed. They come in to land, but they can't calculate the approach correctly, and they often just crash into the zebra or fly away.
So it's dazzle camouflage, like those warships in World War I that were painted in crazy geometric patterns to confuse enemy periscopes?
It's the exact same principle. It breaks up the outline. For a zebra, avoiding a heavy parasite load is a massive survival advantage.
That is fascinating. Speaking of bugs and deception, let's talk about the corpse flower.
Rafflesia and Titanarum, flowers that have decided that bees and butterflies are way too mainstream.
They want the goth crowd.
We want carrion beetles and flesh flies, insects that lay their eggs in rotting meat.
So the flower mimics death to attract them?
It is a chemical mimicry. The corpse flower produces a cocktail of chemicals, volatiles, that smell exactly like a decaying animal. We're talking sulfur compounds. It smells like rotting fish, sweaty socks, and Limburger cheese.
Lovely. Remind me not to put one in my living room.
But the smell isn't enough. If you are a beetle looking for a dead rat to lay your eggs in, you expect one more thing: heat.
Because rotting meat gets warm, right? Decomposition generates heat.
Exactly. Bacterial action heats up the carcass, so the corpse flower, it heats up.
The plant creates its own heat. It's warm-blooded.
It is thermogenic. It burns stored carbohydrate sugars to raise its internal temperature. It can get up to about 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 Celsius, roughly human body temperature.
That is uncanny. A warm, stinky flower.
The heat serves two purposes. One, it tricks the beetle into thinking this is fresh meat. Two, basic physics. Hot air rises. The heat helps volatilize the scent chemicals and push them up and out into the jungle, creating a massive scent trail.
It's a chimney for the smell.
It's a broadcast tower. The beetles smell it from far away, fly in, crawl down into the flower looking for the meat.
And instead,
They get nothing. No meat. No nectar. Just a coating of pollen. They realize they've been duped, fly off, and hopefully get fooled by another corpse flower, delivering the pollen for the plant.
it's a complete con artist, a very smelly con artist.
It relies entirely on the instinctual drive of the beetle.
Let's do one more in this section. Cat eyes.
This connects back to physics, but it fits perfectly into visual engineering.
We've all seen it. You shine a flashlight at a cat in the dark, or a raccoon, or a deer, and their eyes glow back at you. It can be kind of spooky.
It's called eye shine, and it's caused by a structure called the tapetum lucidum.
Which sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
It really does. It sits
Yeah.
behind the retina. Think of the eye like a camera. Light enters the lens and hits the sensor, which is the retina.
But in the dark, there isn't much light. Photons are scarce.
Right. So if a photon passes through the retina without hitting a photoreceptor cell, it's just wasted information. The tapetum lucidum acts as a mirror. It bounces that photon back through the retina again.
It gives the eye a second chance to catch the light.
Exactly. It effectively doubles the sensitivity in low light conditions. The glow you see is just the leftover light bouncing back out of the eye towards you.
And this is where we get a direct human invention, right? This is the first big example of biomimicry we were covering.
Yes, a man named Percy Shaw, a British inventor in the 1930s. He was driving down a dark, winding road in the fog. It was incredibly dangerous. He saw a cat sitting on a fence, and its eyes reflected his headlights back at him.
He had an aha moment.
A literal light bulb moment. He realized that the road needed eyes. He invented the cat's eye ray stud.
The reflective markers we see on highways all over the world.
They work on the exact same principle. A retroreflective lens that bounces the light back to the source, which is the driver.
Yeah.
It has saved countless lives.
And it all started by noticing a cat on a fence. Nature did it first.
Nature usually does.
All right, moving on to section 4, biological systems and strategies. This is about how animals organize their lives and interact with plants. And we have to start with the farmers.
The ants and the aphids.
This blows my mind every single time. We think farming is a human invention. We did it 10,000 years ago during the Neolithic Revolution, and we think we're so smart.
Meanwhile, ants have been farming for millions of years.
So explain the relationship. It's not just the ants eating the aphids, is it?
No, it is a classic example of mutualism, a partnership.
Okay.
Aphids are little insects that suck sap from plants. Plant sap is very sugary, but it doesn't have much protein. So the aphid has to drink a ton of sap to get the nutrients it needs.
Which means it has a lot of waste product.
Sugary waste. It's called honeydew.
And ants love sugar.
So the ants have learned to milk the aphids. An ant will approach an aphid and stroke it with its antenna. This stimulates the aphid to release a drop of honeydew, which the ant then drinks.
It's literally dairy farming. The aphid is the cow.
But it's not just a one-way street. The ants work for it. They are diligent shepherds. Ladybugs and lacewings love to eat aphids, so the ants act as bodyguards. They will attack ladybugs with their strong jaws to protect their herd.
And the source mentions they even transport them, like moving livestock.
Yes. If a plant starts to dry up or get too damaged, the ants will pick up the aphids in their jaws and carry them to a fresh plant. They are rotating their crops.
That is absolutely incredible. It's a full agricultural system. Do they ever eat the aphids?
Occasionally. If protein is scarce, they might eat a few, just like a human farmer might eat a cow from the herd. But generally, the aphid is far more valuable alive.
Next up, let's talk about a furry little creature called the pika. It looks like a round-eared rabbit.
The American pika. These guys live high up in the mountains, and their problem is winter. They don't hibernate.
But there's no food in winter. It's all covered in snow.
So they have to store food. They build hay piles. They spend the summer gathering plants and storing them. But here's the problem anyone who buys bagged salad knows. Fresh leaves rot. If you gather a pile of clover in the summer, by winter it'll be a moldy, disgusting mess.
So how does the pika solve the preservation problem?
Chemistry again. Pikas are selective foragers. They collect a lot of clover, which is tasty but rots fast, and a plant called alpine avens.
Alpine avens, never heard of it.
Now, alpine avens is full of toxins, phenols. It's poisonous when fresh.
So why collect poison?
Because those toxins act as a natural preservative. They prevent bacteria and mold from growing on the hay pile. It's like pickling the food.
That's incredibly smart. But wait, if it's poisonous, how do they eat it?
This is the genius part. It's all about timing. They eat the clover first in the late summer and autumn. They leave the alpine avens in the pile. Over the winter, those toxic chemicals slowly break down. They degrade.
They have a half-life like radioactive material?
Exactly. By the time late winter rolls around and all the clover is gone, the avens is now safe to eat. The poison has faded.
No way.
They are managing a pantry based on the chemical degradation rates of the toxins in their food.
That's better planning than I do for my weekly groceries. I'm eating expired yogurt, and these guys are calculating phenol half-lives.
It is a spice trade.
We love spicy food, or at least some of us do. But biologically, why is a chili spicy? It's not for our burritos.
No. Capsaicin, the chemical that makes chilies hot, is a defense mechanism. But it is a very selective one. It's a filter.
Selective how?
The chili plant wants its seeds to be spread, but it wants them spread by the right courier.
And who is the wrong courier?
Mammals. Mice, monkeys, humans. Mammals have molars. We chew our food. If a mouse eats a chili, its teeth crush the seeds, and the mammal digestive system destroys the embryo. The plant loses.
So mammals are bad for business.
Terrible for business. So the plant produces capsaicin, the TRPV1 receptor in mammals, which is designed to detect heat and burning, binds perfectly with capsaicin. It creates the sensation of pain. It says, stay away.
Except for humans who are weirdly into it.
We are the exception that proves the rule. But birds are the target audience.
Do birds like spicy food?
Birds literally cannot taste the spice. They lack the specific receptor shape that binds to capsaicin. To a bird, a ghost pepper is just a sweet, crunchy snack.
And birds don't crush the seeds?
No, they swallow them whole. They don't have teeth. The seeds pass through the bird's digestive system unharmed and are pooped out miles away, complete with a little packet of fertilizer.
So the plant engineered a chemical that selectively hurts the animals it doesn't like and is completely invisible to the animals it needs.
It's chemical marketing, targeting your demographic perfectly.
Okay, we have arrived at the final section, section 5, and I have to warn you, if you're squeamish, this gets a little dark. We are talking about the dark side, parasites and zombies.
Evolution isn't always pretty. Sometimes the clever solution is horrifying.
We have to start with the green-banded broodsac.
Even the name sounds gross. Leucoridium paradoxum.
This is a parasitic flatworm, and its life cycle involves a snail and a bird.
Right. The worm needs to get into a bird's gut to reproduce. That's its goal. But it starts out in a snail. Snails, as you probably know, naturally hide in the dark under leaves to avoid being seen.
Inside a snail that is actively hiding from the very host the worm needs to reach.
So the worm takes control. It invades the snail's eye stalks.
The tentacles on its head with the eyes on the end.
Yes. The worm grows into these large, pulsating, colorful sacs inside the eye stalks. They're green and yellow and banded. They look exactly, and I mean exactly, like a juicy caterpillar.
So it turns the snail's eye into a fake caterpillar.
But that's not enough. A fake caterpillar in the dark is useless. So the parasite chemically hijacks the snail's brain. It inhibits the snail's light-sensing ability. The snail thinks it is dark when it is actually bright sunlight.
So it completely overrides its natural instincts,
The snail moves out of the shade, climbs up to the top of a leaf, and just sits there in broad daylight.
presenting itself to the birds.
And pulsating. The worm makes the eye stalks pulse rhythmically. It's screaming, "Eat me, eat me."
The bird comes down, sees what it thinks is a delicious caterpillar.
Pecks the eye stalk off, eats the parasite. The bird gets infected. The parasite lays eggs in the bird poops them out. Another snail eats the poop, and the cycle continues.
And the snail, does it die?
Not always. The eye stalk can actually grow back,
Ah,
and it can get infected again.
that is a legitimate nightmare. It's a disco zombie snail.
It is brilliant biological engineering.
Yeah.
Cruel, but brilliant.
The source mentions other zombies too. Toxoplasma.
Toxoplasma gondii, a parasite that needs to get into a cat to breed. It infects mice and rats, and it rewires their brains to lose their fear of cat urine,
So the mouse walks right up to the cat.
and gets eaten, delivering the parasite to its final destination. In fact, infected rats are sometimes shown to be sexually attracted to the smell of cat urine. It turns fear into desire.
Unbelievable. And the zombie fungi.
Cordyceps, you might know this from the TV show The Last of Us. It infects ants, forces them to climb high up a plant, clamp down their jaws in a death grip, and die. Then the fungus bursts out of the ant's head and rains spores on the colony below.
Note to self, stay away from strange fungi.
Good advice for life in general.
So we've covered physicists, chemists, mathematicians, farmers, and body snatchers. It's a lot to take in.
It really highlights the sheer diversity of solutions in nature. There's no one way to solve a problem.
When we look at all of this, the shrimp's punch, the zebra stripes, the beetle sprays, what is the big takeaway here for us?
For me, it leads us directly to the concept of biomimicry.
Copying life.
Humans are smart, but we have only been seriously engineering for a few thousand years. Nature's been doing R&D for 3.8 billion years. We're constantly playing catch-up.
We mentioned the road studs being copied from cat eyes. That's a perfect example.
Yes, and there are other examples in the source. Antibacterial surfaces in hospitals are being modeled after shark skin.
Shark skin. How does that work?
Shark skin is covered in tiny scales called denticles. They are ridged. This rough, microscopic texture makes it very hard for bacteria and algae to attach. So by copying that texture onto plastic films, we can keep surfaces clean without using harsh chemicals.
And the bullet train. That's the most famous one.
That is a classic story. The Japanese bullet train, the Shinkansen, had a huge problem. When it entered a tunnel at high speed, it pushed a wave of air in front of it. When it exited the tunnel, that air expanded and created a massive sonic boom.
The tunnel boom, waking up residents for miles around.
The lead engineer, Eiji Nakatsu, was a bird watcher. And he asked a brilliant question. Is there an animal that moves from a low-resistance medium like air to a high-resistance medium like water without making a splash?
The kingfisher.
The kingfisher, diving for a fish, it barely ripples the water. The secret is the beak. It's long, tapered, and wedge-shaped.
So they put a beak on the train.
They redesigned the nose of the bullet train to mimic the kingfisher's beak. It sliced through the air, completely solved the noise problem, and get this. It actually made the train 10% faster and 15% more energy efficient.
Just by watching a bird fishing.
Just by observing nature's solution to a fluid dynamics problem.
So the final provocation for our listener today. You're walking through a park or you're looking at your garden.
Don't just look at the colors. Look at the problems being solved.
If nature has already solved cold storage with the pika and underwater glue with the barnacle and aerodynamic noise with the kingfisher, what other inventions are just sitting there waiting for us to notice them?
Maybe the spider web holds the secret to new suspension bridges. Spider silk is stronger than steel by weight. Maybe the leaf bud, the hornbeam leaf we didn't even get to fully unpack, holds the secret to folding solar panels for space travel.
The hornbeam leaf. We skipped it, but it uses that origami fold, right?
The murafold, yes.
Yeah.
Folding a large surface area into a tiny, compact bud. It's perfect for satellites.
It's all there. You just have to look. You just have to ask the right question.
You just have to be curious.
Well, I am certainly going to look at my garden with a lot more suspicion and respect tomorrow.
As you should. There's a lot going on out there.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye.